It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Mic check, mic check. This light is so bright. How y'all feeling? That's better. It's the opposite problem Nancy May said the other day. Like her ring light blew out. What up? Good morning. Can y'all hear me? Something goofy happened. I hope that doesn't, I think it was just me not paying attention. Good morning, Kia. Good morning. I'm gonna see if Whiskey Neat gonna come on today. Cause she like Kia, she jet setting. she be jet setting, but we'll see. Ah, there she is. There's Whiskey Neat. Whiskey Neat and Kia y'all be having y'all revenge travel. What did we cover yesterday? Revenge travel? No. Nah, it's more like relief travel, and then Kia, you working. And having fun with a beautiful smile on your face. But good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is gonna be like a little potpourri show because later this evening I will be going live to cover City Council, and so I'll be on for probably an inordinate amount of hours, given the agenda, given the political atmosphere, the political environment that we're all enjoying. That we're all a part of here in the Low Country. For a sec. Oh no, I got you, Whiskey. I appreciate the support. But yeah, you can watch me later. Please get rest too when you land. All that other stuff. Be safe, travel safely. Given what's on the agenda, we talked about it yesterday. It was in the newsletter that went out yesterday morning prior to the live stream. We do anticipate a lot of participation for tonight's city council meeting. Okay, that's okay. I'm happy to hear that. That's really good. That's good, Kia. But yeah, so basically I know that I anticipate a lot of energy, a lot of things going on for this evening. So I'm actually gonna also not be on for a long period. This won't be might be 2 hours. I don't know. This depends, but this won't be one of the longer live streams because I definitely want to make sure I get rest and whatever. Thank you, Whiskey Knee. I know you'll watch later. And believe me, tomorrow morning we're gonna be recapping. But so today's going to be kind of a potpourri, but there's enough local news that it just will be like another local news roundup similar to yesterday. There's a lot of interesting local news that we can just move on, right? So let's go ahead and switch it up real quick. Appreciate your support too. I appreciate y'all checking in when y'all working, when y'all flying around town. Like, I really do appreciate it. It's super, because my lazy ass would be like, I ain't waking up at 7:30. I ain't getting, especially if you on the West Coast or something like that. All right, so this is Tuesday's forecast. Let me tell y'all something. I had to get my serotonin levels right. I had to get me some vitamin D. Yesterday, I was out on the battery, just chilling, reading, writing, journaling, out in that beautiful sunshine. It really does wonders for my spirit. It does wonders for my brain chemistry. All of that. And I hope that even though we have a little bit of chance, we got patchy morning fog, I bet you the sun will come out around midday. If you can, make sure you go out and enjoy that nature. If you can, it does wonders for your soul. Just being out there. Let me just tell you something. As a girl who grew up where? In Jersey, somewhat near the Jersey Shore. Yeah, near the beach and everything like that. Watching dolphins wasn't something I did, or that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a possibility for me. So, like watching dolphins here, just going to the Battery with a book or listening to music on the Battery and watching dolphins play and jump out the water, and that never gets old for me. And so that's what I did yesterday at some point throughout that beautiful sunshiny day. And hopefully I can do that for a second or two today as well. Good morning, Joni. Good morning. Good morning. The sun was made for us. You ain't lying. I am the black gold of the sun. Rotary connection. Minnie Ripperton. Who know that? All right. So this the forecast. I think we're gonna get increasingly more chances. That doesn't make any sense, but the rain chances increase as the week goes on. We got spoiled last week. I felt like it was great. So yeah, that's the local weather. What I wanted to do today was, like I said, kind of a potpourri show for those who just logged on, because I'm not going to be on for an extended period of time this morning because I'm coming back this evening. So if you're chopping veggies or, if you're doing something this evening where you might be able to hop on, I invite you to. I will be sending out a newsletter later on today to let people know that I will be live streaming the entire city council meeting. I'm gonna go wall to wall. Some of it might be me off screen fixing a fancy pizza from Trader Joe's and then coming back, but we will be here watching the shenanigans go down, watching all the stuff that's not as much fun. I might decide to come on a little bit before the citizens participation period. Either way, I'm going to be on and live streaming city council's meeting tonight. And I also signed up to give comment. Good morning, Nicole. Nicole, you were on my mind after yesterday's live stream. So yeah, so today I'll be on. This morning I'll be on for a little bit. And then I'm going to transition, hop off, get rest, organize my day, try to get other content organized for the rest of the week, and then come back this evening because it's going to be a spirited city council meeting. And I think it's worth sharing. And so that's what I'll do. What's up, Australia? Fuega. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. So we're going to cover local news, the headlines. I should pop up the Post and Courier right here. Y'all's favorite. I'm playing around when I say y'all. But y'all's favorite story is at the top of the page. And then this story right here to the right is what I'm going to dig into. Schools to again require masks. Charleston County. Oh, we're going to jump into this right here. And then let's see what's at the bottom of the paper. Crab Bank kicks off. Not going to cover that today. This is the state newspaper. Columbia outlaws open carry of guns at city permitted events. Manchin nixes Biden's $3.5 trillion budget plan, urges 1.5 instead. I'm so tired of Manchin. So tired. Demolition set for public housing complex where 2 people died. This looks like the public housing complex that I visited when I was working with Black Voters Matter, right next to Benedict College. Yep, it is. We walked all through there, and wow. SC prisoners needed new basketball jersey. Church stepped in. I don't even know where to begin with that. I don't know what's going on there. Let me do that, y'all. But we'll get there. Here we go. All right, so some of the headlines. Let me get to the comments real quick. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning. You said you submitted a comment. I have another meeting tonight. Right, you have to attend. I know it's difficult. And you submitted a comment too. Your son's birthdays are this week, so you be doing stuff. Yeah, hopefully they will read the public comment. Usually they do, but we know that very vocal minority is going to have people. The one thing that's shitty about the virtual component is that you're going to get people who are not local, who are not Charleston residents. And not to say that you have to be strictly Charleston residents. But people who just don't have any ties to the community are going to chime in and dominate. Also what's shitty about tonight's city council meeting, and I said this yesterday, I want to give recognition to Marcus organized Marcus with local chapter Black Lives Matter, BLM. Marcus organized a call yesterday with a number of volunteers and chairs of the let me say it right, Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation. He also had Amber, whose office was created to deal with these issues specifically. He had Amber Johnson on the call, and I attended the call, and it seemed like there was a number of well-meaning white folks on the call. A lot of y'all had y'all camera off, but there was a lot of well-meaning white people on the call. No shade, just an observation. But on the call, what I asked for, I asked Amber specifically, and also other people and other leaders on the call, what should the priorities be in terms of message discipline, in terms of what notes we should strike. So if you are planning on either calling in, I know some people, like you said, Michelle submitted a comment, Nicole submitted a comment. One thing that we should be emphasizing, or we should be rooting for, is that we want to make the commission permanent, and we need the city to fund the commission and fund staffing, create an official city run body that is staffed. The commission is unfunded, is not funded at all. And so the work that was started by the commission chairs and the volunteers, including myself, Marcus, and countless others, the work that we all started as volunteers needs to be funded, needs to be subsidized by the city. And you can already, like the fact that this commission was not funded shows you the city's priorities. One thing I also brought up on the call, and I did debate whether or not it was appropriate to bring it up, but I thought it was an observation that I've offered here that I thought was important to offer on that call, is that whenever we're talking about the Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation, it seems like the last two times that this has come up as an agenda item, it has to compete with mask ordinance conversation. And I think that that's intentional. And I think that that undermines the work that Amber has set out, has been employed to do. I feel like it's setting us up for failure and distraction. It also dilutes any of the keen observations or any substantive offerings from anyone involved with the commission. It really dilutes what we have to say. And, there's a way to set people up for success. And I don't think the city's doing that. Now, I do acknowledge that sometimes you can't control when an agenda item is placed on the agenda, right? And I also understand the importance of discussing mask ordinances and acting on mask ordinances in the middle of a pandemic, when we're dealing with the Delta variant in South Carolina and Charleston leading the nation in COVID cases, right? I understand that this is an emergent issue. This is an issue that demands our immediate attention. That being said, I think there's a way to separate these issues. So maybe that means postponing one issue over the other. But there is to me, this is what the subtle undermining of really quality Black-led work designed to, and this is what I said, and I definitely added the disclaimer or qualified my statements on the call yesterday, the call led by Marcus with BLM. I just really think that it's intentional. And I think your lawmakers do things subtly and pass it off as a happenstance. And we can't be that naive anymore to understand it. Let's say that that weakening weakening political power of those who support the commission is not something that the council's actively trying to do. Let's play devil's advocate with me, I guess, right? Oh, Mika, it's not that deep. It's not that deep, Mika. They love it. They love the commission. They love Black people. Like, okay, like let's just say I lived in that world, right? Why not separate the two? Like, why not set the commission up for success? Why not hold it up as an important entity onto itself, right? Especially if you're just going to continue to do second and third readings, and especially if these council people act like they never seen the commission before, like Ross, like, oh, we need to, let's wait. I need more answers, especially if they feel unfamiliar with something that's been going on for over a year. I think, okay, so give her the right time. Give the commission the time and the proper place it deserves, if that makes any sense, right? Yeah. El J, you said you agree. Can't the mask ordinance be separate? I mean, let's like, okay, if you think I'm just being a hater, I'm in the balcony like the old timey Muppets men, from the Muppet Show. Right, like, why can't you keep it separate, right? And not like we saw what you did when you wanted to crack down on our First Amendment rights, our First Amendment right to protest. You had all kinds of special meetings. You whipped it up real quick. Y'all had special meetings. Oh, we gotta do this. We gotta crack down on protests. Even though a white man pulled up with a whole truck full of guns months prior, and you didn't try to pass any ordinances around open carry at protests. You didn't do any of that. Even though a white man pulled up with a truck full of guns, you didn't do nothing. It didn't activate the police then. It didn't activate city council then. It wasn't emergent. Boogaloo boys around the George Floyd protest. Boogaloo boys with weapons on their hip running around. It didn't activate y'all then. Okay, when these civil war reenactors out there with muskets and shit and all this, like, this shit, like, they might have been antique firearms, but they could shoot. They may have to stop and reload and powder the thing back, but, like, my point in saying all of that was that, like, when there's white political will to do what they need to do to push the folks on the margins further to the margins, they move like with lightning speed. But when it comes to giving this commission the time and the space it deserves, and acknowledging that there's a faction of folks that are going to show up not just for the mask ordinance, but to come and show up and throw all that other rhetoric around CRT and reparations and just continue to mischaracterize what the commission set out to do, you know that we got to compete with that, and that's not fair, right? What you dropping the let me see what's in the chat. Let me see. Nicole, you says, tell me a pop quiz is coming up. They better read it, right? We're gonna ask questions. Tell them, yeah, right? Good morning, Charlie the Brit. Y'all, Charlie the Brit came out to the poorhouse the other day. I'm so happy to meet you in person. And your homie, Emma. Yeah, but anyway, that's my take on that. So today we're going to spend a little bit of time on civic discourse too. I want to talk about that because this was inspired by an exchange that my friend Evelyn had on Twitter. Not just that, but overall over the past year, ever since, I would say, well, beyond the 2020 summer protests, but specifically from the 2020 summer protests to now, we have a lot of elected officials engaging with us and engaging with voices, progressive voices, in a way that I think is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I hope Evelyn doesn't mind me evoking her name, but, like, we had this exchange via text, and she showed me she showed me some Twitter engagement she had with city council. And this effort to diminish the voices of people who leverage social media. We heard Ross most notably excoriate and reprimand people who use social media platforms as a way to activate the community. And for a person who identifies as a cash poor Black woman living in Charleston, a place that's increasingly inaffordable for me to live in, sometimes it's a issue of accessibility, right? It's a way that these platforms have created a way for us to democratize these spaces that typically keep us out, right? And to create access to these spaces, and now all things on Twitter are viable political arguments, right? That's with anything. We got elected officials who don't do shit. We got elected officials who don't say the right things, who don't say anything articulate, who don't offer up anything to any conversation. Twitter's the same thing. Like with any platform, you need to do your due diligence, do your research, and choose who you want to elevate. Use a certain amount of discretion. And so we're going to talk about civic discourse too, and how that can look, and stop diminishing the voice of the activist. Stop diminishing our voices. So that's that. All right. So local news, for those who just hopped on, we're gonna do a quick local news, and we're gonna hop into some other stuff. Did y'all watch the Met Ball last night, or at least see all the, like, social media with the Met Ball or the Met Gala? You saw AOC. I love that conversation we're having about AOC and the performative politics that she employed last night, and also just, it was good to see, I enjoy seeing pretty people dress up, but I also understand at the same time the political implications that come along with attending a Met Gala, right? I understand that as well. Both things can be true. Did I like the dress? No, I thought it's just like, I I didn't like the dress AOC wore. I thought it was performative, but I didn't think it was like, you need to, oh, she's the most horrible person in the world. I think going to the Met Gala is more of a statement. I think attending the Met Gala is more of a statement than the dress was. And to me, the going to the Met Gala, I think going to the Met Gala wearing a dress to me is just like kind of one neutralizes the other, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean, that she needs to be thrown into the, we need to, there's a whole complicated conversation happening about AOC, right? There's a whole complicated conversation that I'd love to have with Nuance about AOC and her dress. At first I was like, oh shit, that's dope to say that. Then I thought about it, I'm like, Met Gala is not a place where you're going to have this nuanced conversation on class. You're just not going to have it, right? That's the rich. I fuck with the message, but it's performative. And I mean, you at a place where that's expected, that you come and you make a statement like that. I don't think it's iconic. I'm sorry, somebody said that. Did someone say it? No, I don't think it's iconic. Yeah, Nicki Minaj is a whole mess. Nicki Minaj's tweet was disgusting. All right, hey, what's up, Kate Autumn 32? Right? I don't know if the other squad members were there. I think we do this thing with AOC. Where, again, we don't stand any politician. Y'all know that I have some politicians who I just think, maybe you don't understand, maybe I don't do a good job of this, but there's some politicians that I feel like they hit their mark every time. This is gonna sound like a real big contradiction, but I really do, as a political operative, right? As a wannabe political operative, I really enjoy watching politicians like Elizabeth Warren, because she hits her marks almost every time. When I seen it, I saw it from my own eyes behind the scenes too many times during the Democratic primary races, right? And plus my position as an endorser of the Warren campaign, and also working with a local surrogate and speechwriter for that surrogate, I saw it first up close. My opinions about Elizabeth Warren, my opinions about anyone who I support or throw my support behind, sometimes can be more complicated than that. And I think what we do with AOC is we stand her, we put her on this pedestal, and we don't critique her. Like once she got into our okay, she's great category, we don't even like try to bring her back out and start to critique her politics. And I think this is critique worthy. I think attending a gala with a $35,000 a ticket, $35,000 a ticket attendance thing, the tickets cost $35,000. I can't see nothing this morning. It's like this tweet says, and I'm just seeing this tweet this morning, it's a complicated proposition, and I think that's okay. Doesn't mean she's not pretty, doesn't mean she doesn't do some good things, it doesn't mean that she hasn't pushed certain politics to the fore. But people who are reluctant to even critique her or criticize her, that shit is weird to me. She is definitely, and I know she got a free ticket, but that's still a problem. The Met Gala is not accessible to working class people. You're not having these nuanced class conversations about wealth and wealth hoarding. You're not having that at the Met Gala. Like, get out of here, right? Get out of here. Everyone at the Met Gala is rich, right? That's what I'm saying. Everyone's in there. Right. And so it's not, I don't like the pile. Exactly. Whiskey Neat. The only thing I don't like, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is the only thing I don't like is the pylon. Like let's pile on to her. Like that shit is kind of corny, but pointing out the hypocrisy is fine with me. I did not like ASAP Rocky's, somebody called it a crunchberry quilt. Somebody called it the crunchberry quilt. I mean, I expected Rihanna to come with more than this, because you know how she sets it all, but nah. Rihanna's in a different realm right now. Lord. Yeah, it was some interesting fashion. Some interesting fashions, for sure. Iman was my favorite. Y'all, Iman was my favorite. Let me see if I can. This is going to be a potpourri show today, I tell you, baby. And mine was my favorite. No, I really wanted to talk about at least the AOC component of the Open that. Okay. Yeah, I thought Iman killed it. Like, I had to do a double take. I was like, is that Iman? Because she's not Asian. The lights make her look lighter, too. She was the dopest Ethiopian I've ever seen. Come on. No, let me stop. She's not Ethiopian. What's she? As is a rap lyric. But nah, I thought this was just stunning. She got the assignment. She knew what the assignment was. You like Carly Kloss? I don't like Carly Kloss's politics, so I ain't gonna talk about her. But she looked good. The red dress was good. She got the assignment. I heard this was inspired by what was it inspired by? Josephine Baker, I think. I think that's what I read. That was a good look. This look was stunning. This look was stunning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Y'all really like Ashanti? Ashanti was like, look. Leave your ASAP alone. Nah, crunch berries. I keep talking about Captain Crunch on this damn live stream. What's wrong with me? You can tell how much sugar cereal I eat. It's ridiculous. Captain Crunch. I used to love peanut butter Captain Crunch. Like, I used to eat it till I got sick. All right, that's it with the Met Gala. We'll leave that alone. Let's get back to the news. We're going to get to, this story right here. Let me blow this up a little bit so we can read it together. Let's see if I can pull it over. Okay. It says Charleston County School District will start enforcing its mask requirement for all people in its building effective September 20th. All right, so now I'm going to switch to coverage of that. Here we go.
New tonight, Charleston County School District leaders voted to begin enforcing mask requirements starting next Monday for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to the school. I got you, Kia. The district also discussed implementing a quarantine dashboard and revisiting guidelines for virtual learning. The quarantine dashboard implemented last week breaks down the number of students in quarantine by school. I got you, Nicole. It's updated twice daily, and as of the last update, the Charleston County School District has approximately 1,200 students in quarantine. The district is also attempting to limit field trips and out-of-district travel, as well as events on school property.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the paper real quick and let's see if I can read it. Starting September 20th, during a September 13th board meeting, 8 members voted to approve the second reading of the district's mask policy, which implements its requirement through October 15th. So it's not even that long. In the motion for the vote, the board instructed the district to enforce the requirement. Let me read it over here. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to read it because it's bigger over there. But let me hop back over here if I can. Okay. All right. In the motion for the vote, the board instructed the district to enforce the requirement using federal funds. Cindy Coates abstained from the vote. Why did she abstain? Why did Cindy Coates abstain? Let me see what y'all saying. Jessica, so what happened last night? Jessica, I saw you. Good morning, Anna Marks. Jessica, I saw you had your protest signs on Instagram. What happened with Dorchester District 2 last night? Nothing happened? Was the board meeting held on Daniel Island? JK. I know, right? Wait, they're enforcing the mask mandate, I guess temporarily through October 15th. But why did Cindy Coates abstain? Okay. The board first implemented a mandate on August 16th. On August 23rd, board chair Reverend Eric Mack clarified that no student would be penalized for refusing to wear masks because of a South Carolina budget rule, the proviso, y'all, that prohibits districts from using public funds to enforce mask mandates. The September 13th vote amends the district's policy to allow it to use federal instead of state funds, I guess, to use federal instead of state funds to enforce the mandate. Max said the board believes the new mandate allows the district to remain in compliance with the law since it does not use state funds. That's a good workaround. This is the type of like political maneuvering we need to see, like common sense political maneuvering. Stop acting like there's no options. You can get around it if you really, really wanted to. Here's another comment. Wearing a face mask in schools is an essential health and safety measure. Just that simple. Just that simple act of each of us will help prevent severe illness or death from COVID, said Eric Mack. Okay. Let me get back in the chat. Not a damn thing happened last night. Anna Mark says she voted against it last time. Oh, that's why she abstained. Okay, thank you, Anna Marks. Okay. She's anti-mask, helping QAnon groups organize. That's right. Y'all showed me that Cindy Coates is in Barbara Crosby territory. Yeah, Jessica, you went on to say they made us all wait until after 9:30. What? While they held an executive session about Babs and then came online and said, okay, there's nothing we can do. Motion to adjourn. Wow. Was there a lot of like anti-maskers there too? Like causing craziness? Yeah, Michelle, me and you said, wow. Coates may have violated board policy by undermining the last mandate. She probably did, but it's not going to happen to her. Yeah, I'm sorry too, Jessica. And that's that type of thing, like that type of it's designed to keep you like it's designed to disengage, right? It's designed to keep you out of these spaces and keep you continuously frustrated, because that to me is ridiculous. And if we had a yeah, that's corny. All right, she's still on the board. School's back in session. Right. They need to do something with Babs for real. Yeah. That's corny. Executive session. And they need to be held accountable for it. Good morning, Joy. You said she may be censured. She may get a stern talking to. El Cool J. Just how bad does it have to get? Already making national news, right? I've just really learned, El Cool J, to that point. What I've really learned that there is no bottom. Like we're at this really interesting, and I don't mean interesting in a good way, but we're in this really interesting place in national and local politics where you can't shame anyone. I spent an embarrassingly large amount of time watching old Clinton impeachment documentaries. Like A&E had a series, like a 5-part series. We know that American Horror, FX is running that impeachment, American Horror Story impeachment season this, and I'm watching that as well. And I'm thinking about all the things that Bill Clinton did. And people say, oh, because of Me Too, he couldn't survive now. I don't think so. I don't know. I know we just saw Cuomo step down, but I don't know. I feel like if a Republican Bill Clinton emerged, I don't think that Republican would step down after countless women come out and allege either sexual assault or sexual misconduct, or just sexual impropriety or whatever. I don't know. I just think that some of these people there's no bottom. I don't know. Slap on the wrist, right? There is no shame. So like, what's the other way? You have to find another incentive to bring about change. And I don't think you can shame them. I wanted to hop the live 5 real quick. Oh, okay. I wanted to hop the live 5, and I wanted to watch this Dorchester district. I can't. I would blame it on braces, but it ain't the braces. Dorchester. DD2 implements changes. Let's watch this story from Live 5. I can't say Dorchester for nothing. I can't say Dorchester and then another D word. Let's see if this story will play.
No matter if your workspace is in the
ads. I know some of y'all be like, Mika, ads play before you come on. Why are you so mad? Well, if you subscribe, you don't have to watch the ad. And I turned off the subscriber-only chat feature.
Chester District 2 will be heading back to school in person this Thursday after spending 7 school days learning virtually. At the height of the outbreak in the district, more than 20% of the student body was out of school. Nick Reagan following that story out of Dorchester County, and the district has used the week to make some pretty big changes there.
Yeah, Ralph, on top of that deep cleaning that they're doing in the schools right now, they're also limiting time in certain classes like band, where some of those infectious particles are a little bit more easily spread. They're also going to be standardizing seating charts, and they are going to be limiting the amount of time, they're going to be standardizing those seating charts and canceling before and after school activities with very limited exceptions. Now, there are some parents that say that these rules, they go way too far, but others are saying that they don't go far enough.
This is not helping. It is not helping, and I am begging you, please let them come back to school. Keep them in school.
Parents making a pact.
Can I ask a question? I know I probably begged this question before, right? The deep cleaning is that performative part of the whole disease. I get it. I don't mind the deep cleaning, but I get it. Just like with restaurants, it makes you feel better, gives you a better. Can I just ask another question? A very silly and plain, like just basic question. Is the faction that is anti-mask mandate in schools, is that faction arguing that when you let kids back in, that they'll create herd immunity? Because I know ultimately unmaskers are also anti-vax, right? And not just anti-COVID vax, anti-vaccinations in general, right? So is the assertion that they'll create herd immunity, or is there assertion that most kids who get COVID will be fine, and yeah, we're willing to see a couple kids die, but for the most part, at least the kids that get infected will have antibodies? Is that, because I know a lot of people want to get infected because they want the antibodies, like they want to go through the whole thing without a vaccination protection to get the antibodies. Like, is that the assertion? No, nothing about herd immunity. Okay, let me just let her play then.
Passionate plea for district officials to make this bout of temporary virtual schooling to be the first and last time this year.
Our theme this year was to be back to normal as much
Hey, good morning, D.
caution. Well, we tried that. We planned that, and we was as positive about that as we could be.
What happened?
But the numbers started spiraling.
To that end, the district is implementing a series of changes designed to make the classroom less infectious. In the last 7 days, they've installed more than 400 air purifiers, are doubling down on social distancing and working with third-party companies to help with busing and contact tracing.
We're needing the community to help us on this. Let's work through this. They may,
What's her story, y'all? What's her story?
Temporarily, situation where the parents ask their kids to go in and wear a mask, and let's see what happens. If that works, then we'll know what direction we need to move in.
DHEC's quarantine guidelines can be loosened if everyone is wearing a mask, but still many parents are not on board.
There's not a person on this planet who's going to mask or test or track or trace or vaccinate.
What kills me about moms like this with her little handbag, what kind of bag is that? It's coming from a woman who wears a JanSport and no longer wears purses. Is that Calvin Klein? It's giving me very much HSN, very much QVC. What kills me about moms like this, the swagger that they come up there with, the swagger and this, like, I don't know where they get the confidence from. It might be from, white womanhood and whiteness in general. But the swagger that they just come up to the podium with is just, it's wow. Give me the confidence of.
Guidelines can be loosened if everyone is wearing a mask, but still many parents are not on board.
There's not a person on this planet who's going to mask or test or track or trace or vaccinate or indoctrinate my children.
There's not a person on this planet that will mask or trace or test or save or medicate or put a Band-Aid on the knee of my child. Okay. Not a person on the planet that will care for your child. Got it. Very Dooney and Burke.
And I will fight you to the gates of hell. And you can be sure of that. Thank you.
So she went from outer galaxy to the gates of hell. And she must have felt really good. I'm sorry, I gotta watch it one more time.
There's not a person on this planet who's going to mask or test or track or trace or vaccinate or indoctrinate my children. and I will fight you to the gates of hell. And you could be sure of that. Thank you.
I told them.
Now, we should also mention that the board did discuss the recent arrest of fellow board member Barbara Crosby in executive session. She's being charged with leaving her great-grandchildren in a car during an earlier school board meeting earlier this month. Board Chair Gail Hughes, she says that they have no legal authority to suspend or remove her from the board. And they also add that she is innocent until proven guilty.
Wait. Okay, I get the innocent till proven.
I'm attorney Marvin Pindar.
I get the whole, like, technically I get the whole innocent till proven guilty thing, but like she left the kids in the car, like they were witnesses, they were cops, like she had to turn herself in. Like, how deep? Like, what? She's like, I told them. You right, Nicole? What's up, Hillary? What's the obsession with the gates of hell? They must know something. They must know something about hell. They really, like, and they don't. All right, let's watch another clip. Let's watch this clip, and then we're gonna get to the what to expect tonight with City at City Council. Again, I'll be live streaming for those who just joined me. Good morning. It's Mike with Mika. I'm your host, Mika Gadsden. Good morning. I will be live streaming tonight's City Council meeting, hopefully from start to finish. If not from start to finish, from somewhere near the beginning. I know a lot of it is uneventful, but if there's people who want to chime in and talk about what we're talking, sometimes we just don't have enough space and time to talk about everything that's introduced during City Council or things that are discussed at City Council. It's a lot sometimes, but I'm gonna pack my patience and pack a dinner and go and watch it tonight. So we're not gonna be on here too long, but I want to watch Live 5 news coverage of what happened with City Council. We already watched WCBD's coverage, and then I want to watch Live 5 news coverage of the City Council vote, what they expect for tonight, right? Let's see. Of course, we gotta have an ad or something. Mark Pepper or some shit. Let me see. Y'all are really making me laugh in this chat section.
The Charleston County School Board has voted to begin enforcing the district's mask requirement. The board voted last month to require masks in all district buildings, but until now, students did not face any penalties if they broke the rules. Logan Reigsdad shares details on those changes.
The Charleston County School District now plans to begin enforcing its mask requirement starting next Monday, September 20th. The board voted 8-0 with one member abstaining to reinstate the face covering policy, which the board believes can be enforced without state funding. This would keep the district from running into issues with a rule in the state budget prohibiting mask mandates being enforced with state money. Everyone will be required to wear masks on buses and in all district buildings.
It remains our collective opinion that wearing face masks in school is an essential health and safety measure. Just that simple act of each of us will help prevent severe illness or death from COVID and reduce the number of students who are forced to quarantine.
Right now, the mask requirement is set to end October 15th, with the board saying they hope by then the rate of COVID-19 transmission goes down, but the requirement could still be extended. As for what that compliance looks like or what penalties students may face if they're found to be not in compliance, district officials say they're still working out some of those details and they expect to make more information available later in the week. Reporting in downtown Charleston, Logan Reigsdad, Live 5 News.
I know some of y'all said that that Cindy Coates abstained for different reasons, but D, I think you hit it on the head. I think she's scared. She is scared of being on the record. I think that's where politicians show like tip their hand, like they don't want to go on the record, because Harry Griffin pulls that shit all the time, right? He'll bloviate, he'll pontificate, he'll take to the mic and say the most absurd thing, and then when the vote comes around, he'll abstain, right? So it shows a lack of courage of your convictions, and you don't want to go on the record for being out of step with science, for being out of step with the majority. The majority is behind mandates and common sense regulations in our schools to help keep our kids safe, right? Right. Joy, you said something earlier. You said the public comments for the Charleston County School Districts were fun. There were no in-person comments, but the vice chair read 3 out loud. One was against her program and called it flavor of the month. Got it. That sounds hilarious. Yeah. Jessica, you said earlier, Charleston School Board is diverse. Yeah, it's not. I'm telling y'all, DD2 look vanilla as hell. Yeah, I know. We talked about McMaster talking about the gates of hell yesterday with the mandates, right? It's just a lot of WWE. A lot of Vince McMahon going on, as we said yesterday. A lot of Vince McMahon going on. All right, let's hit up this coverage here. I just like Li-Fi. I really wish Li-Fi was on YouTube. I wish they learned how to monetize their content outside of these ads.
Life in the Low Country.
Because I'm tired of talking. Their coverage is just a little bit better to me in some instances. Shout out K Press Tech. And some others that I like there, but
The Pepper Law Firm today.
boo.
New face covering rules could soon be in place in the city of Charleston. Tomorrow, the city council takes up an ordinance to require masks in all indoor settings. This would include.
Side note, is Raphael James going to take Bill Sharp's spot? I mean, it's time, right? Bill Sharp stepping down this fall. It's time.
Include public and private schools, daycares, restaurants, retail stores like salons and grocery stores, all on public transportation, including tours and when participating in a permitted or allowable gathering. The ordinance would be for anyone 2 years old and older, regardless of vaccination status. There would be some exceptions to the rule, however, like if someone has a health condition or is actively smoking, drinking, or eating.
Let me rewind that real quick.
On public transportation.
Hold on.
Salons and this would include public and private schools, daycares, restaurants, retail stores like salons and grocery.
I'm gonna pause it just so I can read all indoor settings. So city council possible mask. They've been tipping their hand. Like I said yesterday, we've seen some posturing on Twitter that would communicate to me that they are preparing for this vote. So all indoor settings, public and private schools, daycares, restaurant, retail, and grocery stores, public transportation, including tours. Okay. Permitted and allowed gatherings. I don't know what that means. Oh, permitted and allowed gatherings. Police must have chimed in on that. Allowed gatherings. Fuck you.
Grocery stores, all on public transportation, including tours and when participating in a permitted or allowable gathering. The ordinance would be for anyone 2 years old and older, regardless of vaccination status. There would be some exceptions to the rule, however, like if someone has a health condition or is actively smoking, drinking, or eating, or is in a personal car or home. If the ordinance passes, anyone who violates the rule could face a fine.
Joy, I'm
City
gonna read
Council
that.
meets tomorrow at 5.
At 5, y'all. That's today. You know, if I'm gonna be missing verses with Fat Joe and Ja Rule, which I don't know if I'm gonna be missing it. I don't know what but if I that's why I hope it don't go too long, because I need to watch verses. I need to watch Fat Joe and Ja Rule go head to head at Madison Square Garden. Like, I need to see that, right? All right. Okay. Whoa, let me see this real quick. I didn't see Justin this morning. Well, let me read the comment I said I was gonna read. D, you're right. Cover your behind when kids die. For sure. Joy, you said Cindy wrote a letter regarding targeting, mentioning the CCSD legal counsel who is now getting harassed by the anti-mask folks. Yeah. Violence begets violence, baby. LQJ, you said, so what exactly counts as medical or religious exemption? Serious question. I don't even have a clue. That made my brain hurt. Kind of trying to figure out these exemptions and how everybody is like trying to sign up and get one. Made my brain, especially in Florida. Ugh. There were a lot of people without masks in Costco yesterday. Yeah, people down here. Y'all saw me. I posted on Instagram. I was caught slipping at the poorhouse. I'm not going to say why I was caught slipping, but let's just say I was caught slipping. But I still, when I had my faculties later on, i.e. sobriety, I had my mask back on indoors. I like how they clarify that you don't have to wear a mask at home. I know, right? All right. I want to say shout out Charlie the Brit. Charlie the Brit had her mask on at the poorhouse. I did not lead by example. All right, let's look at this real quick. Let's see if we get around the ad real quick. We got lucky one time. Let's see.
President Biden is now requiring companies with 100 or more employees to mandate the COVID vaccine.
But now Republican governors and attorneys general in more than 20 states are saying they oppose President Biden's plan. Among them, South Carolina's Governor Henry McMaster and Attorney General Alan Wilson.
Mary Green has warned of potential legal action coming from the state.
Attorney General Alan Wilson has said his office is reviewing this mandate, but a spokesperson told me earlier today at this point there's no update into a possible legal challenge to it. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Governor McMaster says the governor continues to work with other elected officials to figure out the best way to oppose, quote, these gratuitous, unconstitutional mandates. But a law professor here at the University of South Carolina says he's not sure that these state leaders would have the legal standing to challenge this.
Either you'd have to be challenged by one of these corporations that is subject
Look at him with his
to
book.
this particular provision.
Joseph Seiner,
That's how you do it, y'all. You know you're going to be on the news. You got a news hit. You better put your book. Joe Cunningham. You better learn how to stage the background situation, the bookshelf situation. He got 2 books up there. I can't even see the other book. The Virtual Workplace by Joseph. Is it CN? Oh, that's how you do it. Sorry, side note.
Law expert at the University of South Carolina School of Law says it could then take weeks or even months before a court.
Let's get his name. Let's get his name right.
Continues to work with other elected officials to figure out the best way to oppose, quote, these gratuitous, unconstitutional mandates. But a law professor here at the University of South Carolina says he's not sure that these state leaders would have the legal standing to challenge this.
Either you'd have to be challenged by one of these corporations that is subject to this particular provision.
Joseph Seiner, a labor law expert at the University of South Carolina School of Law, says it could then take weeks or even months before a court rules on the mandate. That mandate requires private sector employers with 100 or more employees enforce workers get
Look at all those
vaccinated or get
microchips.
tested
I'm
every
joking,
week.
I'm joking.
Seiner says until this works its way through the court system, employers should treat it as an effective law. But he says it's difficult to foresee if a judge will uphold the mandate.
That's
which
the most
OSHA
absurd part of
You're
the
dealing with
conspiracy.
a novel issue with respect to a novel, literally a novel virus. And so there is an emergency basis that we haven't seen in a century to implement this type of regulation. But with that said, these regulations don't have a really great history of being upheld in the courts when issued on an emergency basis.
Seiner says whether or not courts find this vaccine mandate to be legal, in some ways he says it's providing cover to employers who are previously on the fence about requiring worker vaccinations. He says this gives them an opportunity to go ahead and compel workers to get the shot and say, we have to do this because we don't want the government to fine us. Reporting in Columbia, I'm Mary Green.
In addition to employees of large private sector businesses, the Biden administration is also requiring vaccines for all federal employees and contractors and for healthcare workers at facilities that participate in Medicare and Medicaid.
Definitely could. I think that's the other part of the argument. On a serious note, that's the other part of the argument in terms of how it will impact employee rights, benefits, safety regulations. Now that OSHA has been tagged in to the fight, I think even though we know OSHA doesn't have like this huge regulatory like arm that's going to go out and oversee whether or not you're doing what the executive order compels you to do. But I think there's another side of this that McMaster has been informed of in terms of how this empowers the worker to advocate for themselves, especially when it comes to health and safety issues. So that's something interesting to watch, that outcome of that. It is, his office was half bookstore, half office. I need to do better than that. I'm always like wearing somebody else's shirt. Like I don't know. But yeah, I think he did good with the self-promotion. A little over the top, but effective nonetheless. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to cover those news stories. Sidebar. Back to Nicole, like what I said something I used I lifted up Nicole's name earlier. I wanted to say that because of this thumbnail of what I was watching this morning reminded me regarding Friday's live stream regarding 9/11 in Black, and we lifted up the work and the sermon of Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright Jr., who gave a stirring sermon on American imperialism and violence. Nicole brought up another quote that I was not privy to from Jeremiah Wright, and I want to say that I want to say you were right, Nicole. Even if you're not, I don't know if you're watching. You were right, Nicole. He did say I might get the quote completely wrong, but he did say Jews won't let me talk to Obama. I made sure I researched that from more than several publications, cited the quote, and I want to say this. I'm not here to excuse any rhetoric that even hints at anti-Semitism. I won't characterize it strictly as anti-Semitism, though. I want to be very careful because I think that there is a larger conversation around some of our, some communities, tension between certain communities and the Black community and the Jewish community. There's some friction there that some leaders like a Farrakhan, which I would conclude Farrakhan's comments are roundly anti-Semitic, and just I can't, right? I just can't. But with Jeremiah Wright, I think there is more nuance that I don't have the bandwidth, or rather I don't have the range to cover. So I'm not going to excuse it, but I will say that it is complicated and that it actually it points to a larger conversation about Zionism, about some of our elected officials, our Black elected officials, and their anti-Palestine stance, which is not, some of our elected officials, some of our elected Democrats are pro-Israel and anti-Palestine, and that can get really tricky, and I don't have the range to discuss that conflict. I haven't researched enough, and I just don't have the range to cover it, but I want to substantiate what Nicole lifted up and say you are 100% right. Those comments do make you cringe, does make your skin crawl, but I don't want to mischaracterize those comments because I think they're part of a larger conversation, if that makes any sense. Okay. I just want to make sure that I said I would go back to it, and I didn't go back to it yesterday, and I wanted to just look it up and go back to it. Also too, I want to say if this you might think this is an excuse or whatever, take it how you want. But what you can tell, because I read through 2015, because Obama distanced himself before he was elected for his first term, right? So that was around like 07, 08. And then up until 2015, Reverend Wright was still very vocal about that divide, and then became very, very critical of Obama. And what I will say is that you could tell he was hurt. You could tell he was hurt. And I think he said a lot of things out of anger, out of hurt and frustration. I'm just bringing the human element there. I think he said a lot of things out of hurt and frustration. And I don't agree with how the Obamas dealt with Reverend Wright. I think they did the politically expedient thing. But that comment about the Jews keeping Obama from him did not help his stance either. I hope that makes sense. I hope I didn't lose anybody on that. But if I did, I understand. All right. So I wanted to get to, I don't care about the Murdaugh thing at all. I wanted to get to this one, right? This story right here. North Charleston employees suing city over mask requirement.
A group of North Charleston City employees have filed a lawsuit over the city's recently imposed vaccine requirement. 14 employees, including longtime members of the fire and police departments, say the mandate is unconstitutional. They say it violates right to free speech, among other things. This is interesting. The mayor has required all city employees to be fully vaccinated by November 5th. And he's a big Trump supporter, so it's interesting how that's panning out. I think when you see a Summy and a Tecklenburg, so don't get it twisted, like they're not that different. When you see a Summy and a Tecklenburg go pro-mask ordinance or pro-mask mandate, I think that's more so for the business interests. As we watch across the country, and I see you, Nicole, as we watch around the country, we watch many businesses mandate vaccination, and if an employee
or and if an employee or a staff does not get vaccinated, there's some sort of consequence. There's either a cost, or there's some I guess testing, like continuous testing and regular testing. So I think you're seeing entities like the NFL, like major airlines. You're seeing these pro-business mayors like Tecklenburg and Summey do what a lot of these corporations are asking them to do, right? Back to the comment about Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Nicole, you said thanks for clarifying. Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely perpetuates that myth of Jewish people in power. It's so prevalent, right? Yeah, and that's the thing. There's some anti-Semitism in there. I don't have the range, because there is a line, and I'm not gonna be able to help folks distinguish between that line. But yeah, exactly. This is the thing about George Soros thing. I said this, and I don't know if people actually caught it when I said it. And this is just me thinking in my bed over here in my beautiful studio apartment. Stereotypes and conspiracy theories have one thing in common. I really believe this, is that they got a kernel of truth in there, and that's what makes them compelling. I think that mainstream media has a tendency to blow things out of proportion, and mainstream media also knows how to pull at people's sensibilities. They know how to hit certain touch points with the liberal left and with the right, right? And so I think as a person who just left a fund that benefited greatly from a lot of liberal dark money, including proximity to Soros and Soros-like funders, it's not actually far-fetched. But that doesn't mean that Soros's faith doesn't mean that, I believe that there's this huge Jewish conspiracy, or believe in any of that, right? I don't believe in any of that rhetoric that would put Jewish people in harm's. I don't believe any of that. But I will say that he was funding a lot of stuff, y'all, and it's the truth. It's the truth. It doesn't mean he was the only one. There was so much fossil fuel interest in Black movement spaces, y'all don't even know. And I'm afraid to keep talking, and not because of faith, but because of like how deep this shit is. I don't have the range, and I want to acknowledge my limitations on this conversation right now. I don't have the range. I just know that I was privy to and heard too many fundraisers in the social justice space, in the movement space, in the subsidizing of movement spaces. Too many people boast their proximity to Soros and other people. I'm just using Soros' name because that's a more recognizable one, but there are other names that floated in there. Abigail Disney floated in there. Let me see if I can find it. I'm setting myself up. Billionaire. Can't even spell billionaire. Oil, social justice. Can't remember. Was it Slate? Yeah. Wait. No. America's top philanthropic billionaires. No, it was I think it was Slate. I gotta think of her name. But there was one woman in particular who had this very it was put out there publicly. I can't remember it. All I have to say is that whatever the right is doing, y'all, the left do too. The left that's been co-opted by corporations, not the grassroots left. Not that left, but she's the heiress. I think it was the heir. I think they called her heiress. I'm sorry now. And it wasn't just a billionaire that's trying to spend down her money. It was her involvement was very political, right? And I think, let me see what y'all saying in the chat, because I'm out here on a limb. Let me see. I didn't research. Yeah. 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 I know I'm going back and forth between. I know. Here you go, Justin. Yeah. Yeah, and Key, you said it isn't a myth. It isn't, right? But that whole thing around Soros got co-opted. So now that if you criticize Soros, you're being anti-Semitic, and you're not. You got to think critically about billionaires and their funding of these spaces. And some of the OG leftists, like the OG leftists whose name y'all never know, they've been very vocal about how the movement was already, it was subsidized. You don't get that type of online presence. You don't get all of that branding. You don't get all those logos. You don't get all of that massive outreach. That's not grassroots. And so a lot of the work that we thought was happening, we thought was grassroots, it wasn't grassroots. It was heavily funded. And I know I'm giving away too much game, and I know I'm probably not ever get entree to those spaces again, which I'm comfortable with, but I was on too many calls and was exposed to too many conversations in and around people fund, the left, how the left is funded. And then the way they place their ads and like the way they place stories in, the way they would place stories in like left leaning or publications where more people who consider themselves left, like the dude that I gotta spend some time. I could pull it up. But like the dude, the Milliken dude, the Milliken fortune, right? Based here in South Carolina. Huge desires to get into electoral politics and to shape certain races. I think we saw it most notably. I'm not doing a good job, y'all, finding the art, because I actually would have to think about the names in the articles that I found. And when I got fired, I lost all my bookmarks in the one browser or whatever. But there's a lot of things that it's just not, you gotta look deeper. You have to have an honest conversation about these things. Joy, you said absolutely left money spends the same as right. Absolutely. No, that's cool. And I believe, yeah, okay. I see. And I think it's just worth conversation. Thank you, Kia, for you're lifting up too. Don't understand why it's anti-Semitic to say, right. I think it's the way you say it, and I'm trying to be very, 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 who's that? Justin, Caroline? I never heard of this. Let me see. Is that her name? Last name is Law? Who's that? There was this story. It was these well-placed stories in like Slate or Politico about like, oh, we're billionaires with a conscience and whatnot, and we're gonna spend down our wealth or not spend down, or just put our money in these spaces. That's not it. Nah, no, this is good. This is this potpourri this morning. Joni, you said, can you expound on the connection between fossil fuel? Oh, what I'm saying is that there are people who are heirs of great wealth, and a lot of that wealth came from oil or whatever, right? Or whatever. And so now a lot of these billionaire or millionaire heirs to this wealth, some of them are conflicted and have chosen to spend down their money, or have chosen to direct their fund or put a lot of their funds to left-leaning causes. And so with BLM, a lot of the money that BLM got, see, that's the thing with the whole Patrice Colors conversation. You can't really have an honest, nuanced conversation online, because what she did when she got criticized for having multiple $1 million properties and then identifying as a Marxist, she, the hypocrisy was real. I really wish she would have leaned in and like, you're right. I really wish she would just lean the way I don't know why people just sometimes don't just disarm their enemies, but just leaning in and taking accountability. I don't know why. As either a strategy or as being honest. Like usually when I do it, I'm being honest. but I also know the strategic like benefits of just leaning into the to the pointed criticism, because at the heart of the critique, it was valid that you purported to be a Marxist. This is supposed to be grassroots, but you have multiple million dollar homes, and that didn't all come from slanging books, right? And so then people started following the money. And why isn't, like, people like me who worked like a dog for Women's March, just to see Tamika Mallory enjoy wealth and prominence, you know, and none of that money that Women's March brought in and trickled down to us killing ourselves on the ground here. And I was wondering, I remember early on, when Women's March chose to go to Nevada instead of coming to the Black Belt, because I made the argument that, hey, we've got the Democratic primary, we've got all these things happening in the Black Belt, we see all these population shifts, and I'm trying to talk to people, these higher ups within Women's March, like, hey, we've got this thing going on here. We can't ignore the political power of the South. They were in Nevada, convening in Nevada and other places, and now I get it. It was part of a longer term strategy that was being funded, and they were being pulled to Nevada to achieve a certain level, a certain political objective, right? I think when we saw Nevada emerge as a very contentious area in this recent election, but it's been building up more so. But there's some other things there as well. And so while we were making this argument, hey, we need help and resources over here, no money, no resource. All the while, you see Tamika Mallory, you know, I have not been a fan of Tamika Mallory since like almost immediately. You see Tamika Mallory out there enjoying the spoils of all this proximity, to wealth, and I'm like, this goes against what we're trying to organize, our professed values, and so you know, it got crazy, it got a little, you know, when you factor in celebrity and wealth and all that other stuff, and Cadillac commercials and $1 million homes, and then the people on the ground are struggling. People like me literally went into debt, went broke, trying to organize Women's March events and interviews and activities, literally went broke doing it. Right. And then none of that money trickles down, if that makes any sense. Right. You went to the Nevada March. Yeah. But there was a reason why Women's March went there, and they weren't transparent about why they went there. They came up with an argument, and it didn't even make any sense at the time. It didn't make any sense. Yeah. And so that told me that there was a financial interest, right? Yeah, and I think so. It's the same. Okay, so this larger conversation we're having about, I'll go to my situation with Cypress, Washington Post. This one I got, and I, you know, when I was with Cypress, I was like, oh, maybe this can happen. Maybe, you know, there are these conscious millionaires and whatnot. So if y'all know, I was, of course, a program manager with Cypress Fund. What I liked about my job, let me just say this, I am going to definitely separate myself. I am, and y'all could, whatever. Program manager, I ran the Giving Project. The Giving Project was managed and led by another separate entity that I still fuck with, that I still bang with. Was on a call as recently as last week with the Giving Project. Look forward to having an interview on this live stream with the people who run the Giving Project, because to me it's an example of how you can teach people how to resource movements at the grassroots level. You can teach all your little white friends, hey, this is why you need to make a class analysis. This is why you need a Black liberation analysis. This is why you need a race analysis. You can teach all your little white friends who don't know what to do, all your little people with influence and money and means. You can teach them how to deconstruct their whiteness, how to dismantle white supremacy, and how to then leverage their proximity to people with money and influence, leverage their resources to just give right back directly to these grassroots groups in the South. I believe in that work, and I led that work. Now where the conflict comes in, where I am a part of and complicit, is in the bullshit of, you know, like millennials. So there's this group called Resource Generation, and I'm still on the fence about, because I think it's I don't know. Given my experience with Cypress, I don't really have that much faith in Resource Generation anymore. So I was hired in part. I was interviewed by David Roswell and I'm not going to get too much into Cyprus, the conflict, but just telling you, this is in the Washington Post, and this is not on accident. So David and Maggie, and I really grew to really have a fondness for both these people. That fondness has diminished because they never advocated for me, and they allowed me to get fired from Cyprus in a way that that was just too. It was horrible, right? So the affection I once had is no longer there because I feel like what's real was not, right? But what they are, David comes from, he's an heir to the, let me see, what oil money is it? Is it Amoco? Yeah, Roswell finally outed himself as rich when he volunteered to front the travel costs for a group of Oberlin students who wanted to attend climate change conference. American Oil. Let me see. Yeah, his great-great-grandfather was Louis Blaustein, founder of American Oil Company, or Amoco. Yeah. So David comes from that wealth, right? And you'll never know how much he'll make. You'll never know definitively how much he's worth. But this is the movement behind, these are the people behind a lot of this movement work. Now, some of them do have really great intentions and plan on spending down their wealth before they die. They don't plan on inheriting or passing down the wealth. Some of them are going to be childless and not going to pass it on, and they're going to make sure that their money is spent down before they die. And I think that's great. But there's a larger conversation about other people who engage in that work and whether or not it's performative, whether or not it's substantive, whether or not it's enough. And there's a whole bunch of things. Well, I will say David and Maggie, I think they're connected to a lot of movement work, very important work in Durham, North Carolina. And I think that there's potential there. But honestly, my personal experience is that when you had a chance to stand up for an important, when you had a chance to stand up for me, and they know the truth of what happened, and they didn't stand up for me. They didn't even give it as much as a call. And that to me speaks to your character more than anything. Yeah, definitely. I hope I didn't go off on a tangent too much. I hope I didn't lose too many people. Let me see. Yeah, thank you for speaking to this. Thank you, D. Yeah, there's definitely nuance and different than, right, exactly. I ain't going down that route, Nicole, at all. And I don't believe in that, right? I remember Nevada having voting issue, huge voting opportunities during that time. Yeah, but still, it was the reason why they were ignoring some other battleground areas where they could where there were certain seats to pick up. It was the reason why they were over there, and I can't remember what it was, but I remember being so pissed. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? Exactly. So I mean, like I said, stereotypes and conspiracy theories have one thing in common. There's always a kernel of truth there. Now, the thing about stereotypes and conspiracy theories is that people weaponize those things, or like in the case of stereotypes, people limit a faction of people to that caricature. And the thing about conspiracy theories, it can take a wild turn. They use the truth to advance an agenda, and using this really cockamamie, just harebrained, theories and lies, outright lies, to advance. And the way that Donald Trump ascended to office, he used conspiracy theories. It's a viable tool for some people to ascend to power. If you prey upon people's deepest and darkest fears, you're going to strike a chord, and then you're going to get people who are afraid of that thing. You're going to get behind them, and you're going to support them. That makes sense. You got y'all. If you don't learn anything if you don't learn, I hate sometimes feeling like I'm not omniscient. I'm not all knowing. But if you don't pick up on anything during any of my live streams, I really need you to understand this. Interrogate all power, even the power you like. Interrogate all power. Always peek behind the curtain. That's my best advice. And nothing is pure. I'm not pure. I'm in situations all the time where I make decisions based on whatever reality I'm continuing, right? And so it's not so much that I need my lawmakers or my millionaires who are spending down their wealth. It's not that I need you to be perfect. I just need you to have principles, if that makes any sense. And I need you to be principled and consistent enough in the way you move. That's what I need you to do. But interrogate all power, interrogate all influence, and question why things are things, question why things are popular. and what could be behind it. I don't think that means you have a tinfoil hat on. That means that you just, you're constantly being inquisitive and curious, right? Yes, the quality people. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at something. I'm getting distracted. It says, yes, the quality people will be happy to answer your question. The others, exactly. People will answer your questions with answers too, not non-answers. All right, I wanted to do this before I bounce today. I wanted to get back to, again, tonight, we just watched, I know I'm just veering left and right. I'm sorry, y'all. The car is careening. Y'all got motion sickness. All right, so we know tonight the Charleston City Council is going to convene to talk about I'm mad that's not on the front page of the paper. They always do that shit. So tonight, Charleston City Council is prepared. I wanted to talk about civic engagement, and I talked about how, like, me and Evelyn had this conversation about making an argument. But I also wanted to, and I said this last time, I was gonna play some of this stuff here from like the 60s and whatnot. I was inspired to talk about Stokely Carmichael, but I think I just haven't put those thoughts together carefully. So what I definitely want to do is I want to watch Gary Chambers. Now this is like about 2 years ago. We know now Gary, where's Gary running for Congress? Or is he running for, I forgot what he's running for. We'll figure it out. But Gary went viral when he held his elected officials accountable. And I want to play this clip and a subsequent interview from Democracy Now! And I want to talk about this. Okay? End with something about Captain Crunch.
Talk about you.
We're going to get crunchy.
Next. So I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist.
Y'all, this is my favorite. This is a clinic. Y'all be liking me. This is my clinic. This was a clinic right here. This was Civic Engagement 101, baby.
Robert E. Lee was, but I'm gonna talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee.
Look at Barbara Cosby.
This is a picture of you shopping while we talking about racism and history in this country. Only white members of this board got up while we were up here talking too. Because you don't give a damn. And it's clear. But I'm gonna tell you what the slaves, my ancestors, said about Robert E. Lee, since you don't know history, sister. Let me tell you that they said when he got the plantation, after he got off the field where 27,000 people died at Gettysburg, Connie, Robert E. Lee was a brutal slave master. Not only did when he whooped the slaves, he said, lay it on them hard. After he said, lay it on them hard, he said, put brine on them so it'll burn them. That's what Robert E. Lee did. And you set your arrogant self in here and sit on there shopping while the pain and the hurt of the people of this community is on display, because you don't give a damn and you should resign. You should have resigned 2 years ago when you choked a white man in his house. You should have resigned 2 weeks ago when you got on TV and said foolishness. And you should walk out of here and resign and never come back, because you are the example of racism in this community.
Come on.
You are horrible.
Look at Barbara.
Now to the rest of the board. You have an obligation to the people of this community.
I don't have to take
and 81% of them are black. And
I don't have to take this. I'll shop for my Cato dress outside the parking lot.
Do you need a Klan rally outside, Mr. Goday, before you end it? Because holding it up means that you put that building in jeopardy. You do, sir. Because all over the country, they're burning stuff down. And black folks in this city have stood with protesters. I ain't seen you elected officials out there with them, making sure that nothing goes south in Baton Rouge.
Come on.
It's been folks in this community who give a damn, not just when it's comfortable, but every time. And 4 years ago, we came down here. Mr. Drake, they say you're a good man. Be a good man.
Come on.
Black folks say you're a good man. White folks say you're a good man.
Jason Saccharin.
Your legacy is attached to tonight,
Jason Saccharin, Carol Jackson.
Your legacy. Now, let me say to the black members of the board.
Come on.
It's the most solidarity I've seen out of y'all in forever.
Come on, get them all.
Let's keep it that.
Collect them all.
Let's stand on this moving forward. Because we don't need to apologize for Connie, Evelyn. She showed you who she was when she was sitting next to you while you were talking shopping. You don't need another example. Now, when do we as Baton Rouge stop being in 1856? If you want to name the building after somebody, how about PBS Pinchback, the first black governor of the state of Louisiana? When he was governor during Reconstruction. You want another name? Oscar Dunn, who was the lieutenant governor of the state of Louisiana in the 1860s, that gave the right for Darius Landis and Don Collins and Evelyn Ware Jackson and Tramiel Howard to get here. You want to name it after somebody from Reconstruction? Name it after the people who fought for abolition of slavery. If you want to name it after somebody, honor the right people, the people who are on the right side of history. But it's your ancestor that the school is named after.
Come on.
So you're holding on to your heritage.
Come on.
But we built this joint for free. And we done begging you to do what's right.
Thank you, sir.
That's right. We done begging you to do what's right. So what reason why I want to play that clip, not just because it's fucking fire, right? I know Kato dress. Not only because it's fire, but because of the fieriness, the emotion. And I want to just make this, I want to compel people who are listening that even though I stressed yesterday on the call and today message discipline, because we do have to stand in contrast to that convoluted faction that's going to show up and be anti-vax, anti-mask, and pro-white nationalists. We know that they're literally organizing with white nationalists, right? We know that they're literally anti-science. We know that they don't present a cogent point of view. It's not just conservatism. Right, because there was a lot of conservative guys that hopped up and didn't agree with the commission's work or it being accepted and the commission being funded, but they didn't. Some of them, I don't, I could tell that they don't see me as human completely. I could tell that, but some of them did make an argument that was steeped in at least cogent politics, even if I disagree with it vehemently, right? But that's not what that faction is. And so I think in the interest of understanding politics and being strategic, right? And understanding that what might have worked during the summer of 2020 won't work here, because now we've got a faction that is basically copy and pasting what the left has done since Donald Trump got in office, but putting this convoluted spin on it. So, but what I will say that if you get fiery tonight, if you get passionate tonight, don't immediately think that that's a bad thing. That's important, especially if you come with the facts, with the receipts, and you collect the motherfucker right there in real time. It's very important to this was an expert way to dismantle a lot of bullshit that you have to, bullshit bureaucracy and lack of will to do the right thing. This is how you attack that. And passion is a valid emotion, right? This man, yeah, fan-fucking-tastic for real. I love the F-bomb in the middle of a breakup syllables. I love it. You are my kind of lady. All right, I wanted to go back and play the Democracy Now! Clip as well, and then I'm gonna get back to some other forms of protest. Let me pause it, rewind it. It might cover a lot of the same thing we just watched, but
racism has gone viral. The board was meeting to discuss a resolution to change the name of Lee High School, named after Confederate General Robert E. Lee. This is Gary Chambers Jr. addressing the board member, Connie Bernard, after he noticed she was online shopping during the meeting. Bernard can be seen walking out as Chambers speaks.
I just got to see this again. This part. This little
intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm going to talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee.
Okay, I just had to see that part. Let's see if they get Gary in there to talk, give commentary. I just think
they say you a good.
I like how he held the black lawmakers accountable too. Oh, she doesn't talk to him? I thought she talked to him. Let me see. Guess not.
You to do what's right.
Thank you, sir.
That's Gary Chambers addressing the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. On Thursday, they voted unanimously to form a special committee to come up with alternative names for Lee High School.
I wonder if they actually did it. Okay, I thought there was an interview with him, but it wasn't. All right, I want to pivot as well, because there's something I brought up when shout out to AJ Gardner, who was actually on the call that Marcus convened last night. But I brought up AJ's, I remember when we covered the city council meeting. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So shout out to AJ, but what I want to stop doing is giving white folks cookies. And hear me out. I think recognition, I think recognition is important. I love recognition as an incentive. I love because I think it builds community and it gets people committed to your cause, right? Not funny. What's the one that's like 18 hours? Is it right here?
People in this room
AJ, right? I think this is important, right?
who say that we've never been as divided as we have been, but they are old enough to have used segregated water fountains.
Okay, we're going to go back to Marcus's comment. Let's see if we can find Marcus. They felt so self-righteous. Because AJ commented on Marcus's mic getting cut. I'm trying to find Marcus's comment. There's Erica. Saw Nicole. Let me see. There's that Banshee. I wonder how she's doing with fundraising. I know she made some money after she did that. Oh, there's Marcus. So
y'all don't need no critical race theory, because you're standing on a plantation right now. You're standing on a plantation right now. Right now you're at Fairbank Plantation. Right now you're at Fairbank. Right now you're at Fairbank Plantation. Then Fairbank Plantation.
So what I liked about what Marcus was using passion, I think it's a viable tool. He was being shouted down. Look at Nicole. Hey, Nicole. And then AJ came up and offered up. I thought this was
And as soon as the Charleston Black Lives Matter president spoke, you started cutting microphones. I want you all to inflect on that. We sit here on Daniel Island, albeit annexed, still in Berkeley County, one of the wealthiest and most whitewashed areas in the Tri-County area, where students are zoned for Hanahan, to discuss moving forward with your strategy on improving equity, diversity, and inclusion. I am here in support of the committee, mask mandates, reparations, critical race theory, and moving law enforcement budget to prioritize mental health and social services.
So it's very important for a white person to use their position, use their privilege to say these things, especially a white person who can communicate in a way, and this is a compliment, or this is just an observation, not anything bad, but a white person who communicates in a way that that I guess communicates credibility to a lot of white people, like a lot of white structures. And not like, so sometimes they like to discount emotion and passion, but they'll listen to a white brother, a white dude in khaki pants and a polo shirt, carefully, and with less emotion, express these point of views, right? And it's important for white people to use their position and use whatever skill set, whether it's an oratory skill set or not, right? So I wanted to then go back, and this is not for gratuitous, like I'm not doing this for any other reason outside of we need to look at how other protests, how emotion during city council. We looked at Gary Chambers, very passionate, and then we want to look at this, which I'm not opposed to. Now, I didn't like how corporate media characterized this. I'm gonna go with this clip. I haven't watched this clip probably since it came out. So this is from
Anger is boiling over in Sacramento.
This is from 2018. Right? So this happened at city council. Mind you, now this is an extrajudicial death, and I think that the passion and the emotion is warranted.
Anger is boiling over in Sacramento. Hundreds showed up last night for a special city council meeting focused on the death of Stephon Clark.
Those officers need to be fired.
There were tense moments, with Clark's brother Stevante jumping on the mayor's.
So somebody might say, well, Mika, what about this then? If the anti-maskers are yelling and condemning you and sentencing you to a lifetime in hell, or whatever the hell what kind of witchcraft that lady was trying to drum up, Tamika, how can you sit there and condone this? First of all, extrajudicial killings is not the same as you being anti-science, right? So you advocating for Black lives, for the very existence of Black lives, that issue is real. Too many people, too many children, too many women and men have lost their lives at the hands of police, a militarized police force. And I don't think those things are equal. I don't think that your stance on masks is the same. You being a hardline anti-vaxxer is not nowhere near as real as stopping as making sure that the police are kept in line in terms of their power and their broad reach, right? And I do think there's a place for this type of protest where you shut down a meeting, where it's designed, your protest is designed to shut it down. Your protest is designed to use the camera, right, to gain some sort of media attention, to bring media attention to your causes. I do think that there's value in that, and I do think it's real.
Desk and criticizing the city. Today, a calmer scene as Clark
especially if it's nonviolent.
Remembered at his wake.
We had a personality, and that smile was out this world.
Police were responding to reports a vandal was breaking car windows when 2 officers confronted Clark in his grandmother's backyard. They thought he was armed.
Show me your hands, gun!
But Clark had no weapon, just a cell phone. California's Attorney General is now joining the investigation into the shooting. Clark's family wants more.
We are going to correspond with the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to open a federal investigation.
Today, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked.
Well, we know how that went with that DOJ, right? And I brought that up because I wanted to look at the optics of the protest at City Hall. I'm not calling for this protest. I'm not organizing anything like this. But I want to again take another look at the protest, some kind of coverage.
Inside this building that's homeless have been nothing but neglected and disrespected by your coward. You hear what I'm saying? You's a coward. Yep. I sat there and I read Sacramento Bee and you talk about all these millions and millions of dollars, right? That's what you talk about, right?
Hey, could you watch your language?
No. You know what?
Yes, that part.
Listen, let's keep this real. Why have nobody? You know how many times I got arrested? How many times?
I think they blurred out what he said. So I want you to look real quick when it takes a turn.
Leave him alone.
What happens? Y'all see what happened? Y'all see this? Y'all saw me post this content before, right? Y'all saw what happened? All right. So then you go to this old post by Ebony Janice. Okay, hold on 1 second. Can I make it bigger? And not. Let me see if I can make it larger here. And I love this this commentary and context that Ebony Janice offers over Instagram. It's evergreen at that.
This video has had me emotional all morning because I've never seen people with white privilege use their privilege in this kind of way. Notice that everywhere he moves, they move. This little Asian woman is about to hop up here in these heels, and a white man with a leather coat put his arm around to make sure they didn't touch him. But look, they're never trying to touch the non-black person, ever. This man in the back done grabbed his baton for what? The only people being violent are the police. So if you ever try to tell me that your whiteness doesn't have any privilege or your proximity to whiteness is not a privilege, look at this. They're not trying to touch anybody but the black man. This is what it looks like to be an accomplice.
So when you have like a situation with where and Marcus's situation didn't rise to that occasion, that's the type of also the type of action we need. Now, it doesn't even have to be literally like this, but we need to see more non-black POC and white folk use their privilege to literally protect black bodies. And D, you chiming in as per usual. D is chiming in, and D, you keep me honest, because sometimes I can remember things with a little extra hot sauce. But I before this video was a thing, this is shared in 2019. You know, I had my little run-in with Meryl Chapman. Meryl Chapman came to a debrief following the Women's March rally that I led. We were there to talk financials. We were there to talk next steps. But Meryl Chapman came with the intention to disrupt the meeting and to bully me. She asked to speak with me privately, and I went against my better judgment, and I went to an area of the space that we were in to talk to her privately. Something told me to at least have my camera phone, like, position somewhere where I can capture it. Whatever. But Meryl did start to become belligerent, and D put herself between myself and Meryl. D was the only white woman to do that. Even the white woman that I was working for at the time did not do that. And also Bob Bland was there. Bob Bland is a white woman who was a former co-chair of Women's March. I think Bob Bland is a sweetheart. Bob Bland was there also to tell the white women what to do, tell the people in the room what to do, which is to shout Meryl out and to say it's not okay and to get her out, and they literally had to shout her out. But I'm always, when people, I always think back to that moment because of what D did in real time. And thank you, D. If I don't say it enough, I'm gonna say it again on Thursday too. But thank you, D, because that's exactly what leaders like us, like Marcus, need. And all too often, whenever I'm a part of an event, white people like to sign up to be legal observers. They like to sign up to be like marshals. But y'all gonna have to start signing up to be actual protectors of Black bodies. Like, y'all gonna have to get off them sidelines sometimes. And I think when we do return to in-person council, do I want things to get ratcheted up to this fever pitch? I think that there's a political outcome. Charleston's not Sacramento. Charleston's not DC. Charleston's not Newark. Charleston's not Detroit. Charleston's not any of those places where you have a really robust social justice presence that actually strikes fear in the heart of city council. Charleston's just a different animal. So I don't think what happens in Sacramento will work here. That being said, if emotions flare and we know that we're on the right side of history, we know that we're on the side of justice, equality, we're on the side of Black lives, right? I do understand emotions flaring. So if emotions flare, I'm gonna need to see white folks do more than just give lip service to and protect Black bodies. And not only that, perhaps there's a way you can use your privilege to advance Marcus's message or to help him, a person. I'm just using him as an example. It could be me. Use your privilege to help come up with a strategy that would deflect away from Marcus, that would help minimize or mitigate harm from a Black body. I'm gonna use Erica Coakley. Erica Coakley was there as well. Someone that we literally have to protect at all. By any means we have to. We have to protect Erica. We have to protect a lot of Black, very vocal people. You have to protect me, y'all. I'm not safe out here, right? But I think there's a way for white people to use their privilege to help and stand up in real time, especially when tempers flare and when emotion gets at this high pitch right here. Again, I'm not advocating that we take over city council like this, even though I would love to see us stand up against the powers that be and speak down oppression and interrogate power and hold people accountable. I like to see a combo. I like to see some Gary Chambers with a splash to Sacramento. Yeah, I would love to see it. I don't think it'll be as politically effective here yet. But I think there is a time and a place for shutting down an entire city council, right? And I think y'all got to stop waiting for people to ask and just know that that's real. Like you don't know how big of a deal that one thing that D did. It also, not only was I grateful personally, and not only did that kind of reinforce our friendship, what it then did was show me possibilities and show me like Meryl would not listen to me tell her to get out of my workspace. But when a white woman put her body between me and her, and then another white woman shouted her out and say, Meryl, you must leave, and made the whole room chant that. That was the power of whiteness, because she wasn't listening to me in my workspace at my meeting. After an action I led, she didn't acknowledge me as the leader. She didn't acknowledge me as a person. And that's why it showed me the power of white accompliceship or co-conspirators, whatever you want to do. And no, you can't call yourself that, but you can strive for it. Does that make any sense? And Nicole, you bout it and rowdy. All right, so I just wanted to kind of like leave that there, and also if somebody wants to say, oh well, Dr. King was civil disobedience, and Bree Newsom climbing that flagpole was civil disobedience. Civil disobedience does not mean passive, does not mean you just get beat over the head at a lunch counter. Like, that's not civil disobedience. Civil disobedience can be you not letting city council proceed with the meeting, right? And you can do that in a nonviolent. None of those people, and even though you saw someone jump up on the desk and whatnot, nobody had a weapon. No one was a real threat. He might have told a city council person to shut the fuck up, but he was not about to hit that city council person. He was not about to, charge that person. It was emotional. And again, there's pros and cons to every strategy. But for those who are more, I guess, one thing I liked about Dr. King was a brilliant mind. Coretta and Dr. King were both brilliant political minds. But I like that Dr. King was always placed in these situations. He always landed himself in some real interesting situations. And where he had to, where once a faction or a part of his movement breaks off and kind of like, nah, well, we tried the nonviolent thing. We tried civil disobedience. Now it's time for revolution. And how he made space for it, even if he didn't agree with it personally. Dr. King did it with with Stokely Carmichael, and he did it again too with when you saw all the riots that broke out in the '60s in places like Newark and Detroit and all these other places where people were burning where places were burning, and Dr. King talked about it, right? He didn't just he didn't agree with it, but he spoke to it. And I think sometimes when people say, oh, it's not right for you to be loud and you to run past your time or you to be disrespectful, and people who put a premium on civility within civil discourse, usually that's a distraction from the task at hand, because sometimes the action is to disrupt. Sometimes the action is to disrupt. Right, and sometimes the action is to advance a message, and you just have to be strategic in how you deploy it. But I wanted to play this because we have a tendency of turning, as Cornel West say, turning Martin Luther King into Santa Claus.
Actually, I don't agree with everything that Stokely Carmichael says. I don't feel that we can win the struggle through violent means. I don't believe in guerrilla warfare. I think it would be both impractical, ineffective, and immoral. So I can't believe in this at all. I think we must
remember he's a pacifist, right? And that's his politics. But I love this part right here.
On the other hand, however, that the young militants are in the revolutionary spirit.
Listen.
And they are concerned about revolutionizing certain values that have been existing in our society that need to be revolutionized. And I think the other thing that we must see is that, as President Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible only make violent revolution inevitable.
Did you hear that? People who make peaceful revolution impossible only make violent revolution inevitable. Couldn't have said it better. We like to think that, we like to do this weird thing with Dr. King where either he's, because there was a point when his tactics felt to the younger faction that broke off, right? That includes Bakari Sellers' daddy, Cleveland Sellers, right? There was a faction that broke off because they felt like the nonviolent strategy was outmoded at some point. But people might like to spend a lot of time on the division and the differences between a Stokely Carmichael, who eventually became Kwame Ture. They might spend a lot of time on the division or the philosophical differences, even with Malcolm X too. I didn't even go there, right? Because Malcolm X wasn't with that nonviolent either. Like what I liked about Malcolm X's commentary on Dr. King was that he talked about the limitations of continuously positioning yourself as a victim, right? The optics of having kids get beat up, like how they and then so you like there's limitations to that, and also there's a futility to it as well, because that was at the core organizing of a lot of that work. I wanted to play one more clip Right here, this is the one I like to share because like people like Nancy Mace like to take King out of context often and just lift up nonviolence, but he acknowledged the radical revolutionary faction. He acknowledged that he understood why people resorted to those types of tactics, right? Let me play this. Let me see if I can
continue to say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating.
Again, a pacifist.
I'm still convinced that non-violence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve, and that in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution.
And I'm gonna pause the King real quick. And disruption doesn't have to equate to violence. Disruption doesn't have to equate to it can look like a number of different things. Disruption and civil disobedience go together, but not always does disruption and violence go together. And I think people think that disruption, if you shut down a city street, if you climb up a flagpole and bring down a Confederate flag, if you stop I shut down a Charleston County School Board meeting a few years ago. I shut it down with Elder Johnson. We shut it down and everybody had to jump up and you know, whatever. Well, we shut it down. And damn, what was that about? I was in there with my backpack shutting it down. But it didn't have a violent element to it. It was disruptive as hell. And no, you could not carry on with business. So that's the other thing too. Like, don't conflate violence and disruption. Like, disruption doesn't really have to be violent. And people like to say that whenever like a group shuts down the street or takes to the street, they keep conflating the action with violence, and it's time for us to start making those distinguish between the two. But I like the fact that King is talking about like he feels as if his politics tell him that nonviolence is the only way is an effective way, not the only way, is an effective way to reach a certain political goal. But then he acknowledges
in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society.
Yes.
Which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots.
That's right.
But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay.
Woo. Our nation's summers of riots caused by winters of delay, y'all. And El Cool J, you put disruption is going to be reported as violent anyway, so protest needs to take on many forms. Absolutely. Overcoming the silencing by those in power. Absolutely. And I want to stress this again. We cannot afford to put a premium on civility or put a premium on traditional traditional forms of a disruption, we have to, we have to be able to understand and go beyond just the optics, right? Even with the unmaskers, I like they're not that. Now when you organize with the Proud Boys, I'm out. I'm out, right? I'm out completely. But if the unmasked faction really presented itself and has some sort of science, whether it be controversial, whether it be non-peer reviewed, whatever, but if they came with some sort of scientific belief, I believe there could be discourse there. But because a lot of it is informed by racial animus and right-wing shenanigans and propaganda and anti-Black racism, a lot of it is informed. And again, they're literally organizing with Proud Boys and white nationalists. They're out the conversation, but there is a way to talk, is a way to ask questions and to engage folk meaningfully. And then when you feel like, well, this is going nowhere, then things can kind of, I don't know what I'm saying right now, but my point is, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have to look beyond the histrionics. We have to understand the why. I really do want to understand more of the why with the other faction to a degree. I literally asked you, like, what are they fighting for? So if they want the kids to go to school and want us to resume school as it looked like it looked like in 2019 or 2018, what do they say about how are they rationalizing the uptick in pediatric ICU cases? Like, how are they rationalizing that? And I think the answer is they're not. They just want what they want, and they're like, I don't know. And Nicole, you said, what's that saying? There is no protest that is acceptable, right? Exactly. Yeah, and to that point, I don't want to sound savage in what I'm about to say, but this man right here, studied Gandhi and nonviolent protest and civil disobedience, and you out there marching with kids, and you organize SNCC, which is led by college students. You help with sit-ins. The women, well, I should say the women, Ella Baker specifically, behind a lot of the movement work behind Dr. King, including Septima Clark. They were the architects behind a lot of nonviolent protests, a lot of civil disobedience. And what did they do with Dr. King? All right, you killed one of the most peaceful people on the planet. One of the most prolific people on the planet. He was murdered. He was assassinated, and he was nonviolent. So my point is, like, they're not gonna accept any type of protest. That's why having people who are anti protest condemn you and tell you, like a Chief Reynolds, they can't dictate your plan of action. Like, I don't care how many ordinances they come up with, right? You have to work around it because you know that you have First Amendment protections, and you can't let their actions dictate what your strategy. If anything, you just become more clever, more savvy, more flexible, more nimble, but you don't let them stymie your work. That's important. That's very important. Yeah, I just wanted to save space and leave space for spirited protests, spirited displays of disruptive actions. I wanted to leave space for that. I wanted us to look beyond the histrionics, to be able to discern between what the unmasked group is doing versus what BLM and other BLM adjacent, or people like myself who are not affiliated with any group, people like myself who are proponents of spirited discourse. And I brought this up. What inspired me to go this route is because, again, Evelyn had an exchange with elected officials, and they assumed because she was raising certain issues on Twitter, I guess they assumed that Evelyn wasn't what was about it. Like, what, Evelyn is one of the most civically engaged, community engaged people I know. Like, and she's under 30, right? And she's out there, she's organizing in her community. She knows her neighbors. She tries to speak with her neighbors. She's organizing with Black women leaders in the community, like Reverend King. Like, she's on it. She's on shit before I'm on it half the time. And so for someone to dismiss her comments and just kind of like condescend to her. I'm like, well, actually, like, it's so condescending. And then yesterday, now I got a great email, a very helpful email from a city council person. I almost said their name, but the email started off with actually, and the email started off like as correcting me. And I didn't even read the rest of the email because I had already, my point is, like, I think people see activists and see vocal, like, people, like they just find, like, sometimes I think that they see it as see us as just irritants. And I know I am a social irritant. I pride myself on being that, but they only see that. They don't see the other possibilities. And because our elected officials don't have competition, because we don't have people pushing people like a Barbara Crosby to get the fuck off school boards because you've been here long enough and you haven't done shit and you're reprehensible, right? Because we don't really push the people we vote for to be better, they don't have to be better. So that means that they will condescend to their constituency without doing their due diligence and without understanding, oh, no, you know what? My voting base or a large swath of my voting base leverages Twitter to speak truth to power. And I need to acknowledge that as a very real mode of communication and not diminish everyone, not call everyone a Twitter troll just because they oppose, even if they're not articulate, even if they're inarticulate, even if the thought isn't as cohesive, it's your constituency. And Charleston is a place like no other where I've seen politicians not even have to, they can talk to you any kind of way as if your vote doesn't matter. And we really need to push our politicians to be better. And the way we do that is making sure that we have an organized message. We are message disciplined. We are organized, that our white accomplices and co-conspirators are on board with making the appropriate amount of sacrifice, and sacrificing comfort, sacrificing privilege to make sure you advocate for Black lives. We have to push for that and not get distracted by people saying, oh, well, you didn't do it right. You didn't play the civics game right. You didn't play civic engagement right. With all these arbitrary rules around decorum. Now decorum, I'm all for it. Again, we have to be savvy. We know there's a faction that's hell-bent on disrupting the proceedings of tonight's meeting just for political gain. And then there's other people who actually care about these kids, care about keeping Charleston safe, while the CVB and the mayor and other powers that be are wooing in and welcoming in hordes and hordes of tourists, right? As our elected officials are welcoming in and taking out full page ads in the most circulated edition of the weekly paper, and telling people it's okay to come here amid a literal crisis in our hospitals where the National Guard was called in, you need to hold them accountable. And you need to speak truth to power, and you need to do it in any way you can find, but we need to be strategic. We need to be strategic and organized. Oh my God. So I see. This is why I had to turn off the subscriber only, but I'm out now, so we gonna dip. I banned that person. Oh boy. All right. So I'm gonna end it there because you know what's coming now. I'm gonna end it there. Y'all take care. I'll see you tonight if you have the bandwidth or you're curious. Even if you're busy, you can peep in on your phone. I'll be live streaming tonight, live streaming City Council. All right, and I'll probably have to turn on the subscriber only chat feature, but I'll be on there. Okay. All right, take care, y'all. Thank you for listening. I know I was all over the place, but it was cool. Yeah. All right, take care. I guess I should say my signature. Bye.